I guess we'll get started. Hi, my name's Chris, and I've been working with Game Maker for about a little over a year and a half now. Here to talk about Game Maker today, and this is kind of here to be an entry-level talk for what is often considered an entry-level programming environment. But I like Game Maker a lot because it is easy to use and easy to learn. And you can do pretty advanced stuff with it, although it's not quite as robust as some of the other programming environments you have. Just to talk about myself a little bit. This is me. I got into gaming very young, the early part of the 1980s. Played a lot of Atari, Nintendo, some Commodore FD2, 80s arcade games. I did my first game design when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I finally got into actually programming games very recently. But it had this aspiration all my life to do this. I am affiliated with the Cleveland Game Developers Meetup. We're on meetup.com if you are local and you want to do more game development or meet more of us looking for that. And I've been working in Game Maker since 2010. I have my own website at sanyk.com, which I use mostly a blog, and I have some downloadable stuff that you can play or use to make games with it. I developed a number of extensions to Game Maker, anytime I'm using it. And so that's stuff about me. I am also doing the A-Game Any-Game event this weekend. So immediately following this talk, we will be over in the main room over there, and we'll be getting together to develop a game one. So if you have ideas for your own game that you've never made before but always wanted to, or if you just want to contribute to a project that somebody else is working on, we'll be over there forming teams right around 1 o'clock. You don't have to use Game Maker for the A-Game Any-Game thing. If you want to use whatever technology you want, you're more than welcome to. This talk is just to give everybody who might want to use Game Maker a little bit of a head start in getting to know the environment, and we'll be able to actually put that knowledge to use at the A-Game Any-Game. So I need to know about you guys a little bit in order to present this properly, because I don't really know what the average level of programming knowledge is. Again, this is going to be more of an entry-level talk, but I don't want to bore you guys to death if you already know a lot of basic fundamental programming stuff. So if I could get a show of hands, has anybody in the audience actually used Game Maker before? Right. Has anyone made a game, period? Anybody else has programmed a computer before? All right, good. And I assume everybody will raise their hand when I ask you to type video. All right. Game Maker is currently going through a major rewrite right now. The most recent release was 8.1 up until about a week ago, when Game Maker HTML5 came out of beta. They are rewriting the underlying framework, which was originally written in Delphi C, and that code base is kind of old. In order to better run on mobile platform and so forth, they originally C++. Game Maker has its own language called GML, or Game Maker language, which has a C-like syntax, but it's a very, very simplified language. It doesn't have a whole lot of technical stuff. And it's got 2 data types. It has strings and real numbers. That's how simplified it is. And in the very near future, Game Maker Studio will be released, currently in beta, and it will enable you to target Win32, OS 10, iOS, Android, HTML5, Symbian platforms. And it's geared toward more professional developers, pricing for it. But the 8.1 version is what we'll be using in A-Game Any-Game for those who want it, I have coupon codes for free license to unlock the professional version. It by default has like a free light version that does include some of the advanced features. So we'll get you unlocked and you can use the full-blown A1 that they donated today for this weekend. So I want to kind of give a brief overview about what a game program looks like. This is probably typical, common. I don't know if this is universal, but usually a game program consists of a current game state, which is all your data that represents the state of the game, what the score is, where your player is on the screen, what your inventory is, all that kind of information for game state. And then you have game logic, which is the rules of the game, the rules that the program operates by to update that game state each fraction of a second. So there's a big loop that goes on that controls the game. And it's basically what you see there. It's while the game is still running, or while the game is not over, it applies the game logic to the current game state and generates the next game state. And so this happens typically 30 times, 60 times, 120 times over, very, very rapidly per second. And so you have to train yourself to think in terms of these programs that you're writing, basically executing to generate the very next step in the game in that small amount of time. So this will throw people at first because they think, well, I want to have my guy go from point A to waypoint B to waypoint C to final destination D, and I'll write a loop that does like a while not at destination update position incrementally closer to, and then all that executes in one step. And so in 1/30th of a second, you actually move the guy from all those positions, but the game doesn't update the screen until the end of the game's main loop executes, and that while loop is all rolled up inside of the main loop. So in one frame of animation, you're here, the next animation, you're here, and the player doesn't actually see all the intermediaries. So you have to be cognizant of that. I'll just get right into Game Maker and talk about the very first fundamental in Game Maker. I want to switch over to the Game Maker interface, and this is the program that's running. Over on the left-hand side, we have what we call a resource tree, and these are all the things in your game that you can build and then use as building blocks to make it. The first one we'll talk about is the room. And the room is basically a place where stuff happens in the game. So I'm going to create a room right now. And I'm going to rename it. And this is just an empty space. So now that we have a game room created, if I run this, this is the simplest game that could possibly exist in Game Maker. It's not really a game, it's just, it's the simplest program I can file. It doesn't do anything, it's just an empty room. So in the room editor window here, we have settings. You can control the height and width of the room. And I'm going to change these. Hopefully this will fit on the monitor. And when I set the background, you can have picture image background, and you can have a flat background color. We're actually going to build Space Invaders because I happen to like that game, and it's simple enough that I can do it in the amount of time that we have here, and it will allow me to show off a lot of the features and understand how it works. So this will be our room for the game running. And it has a black background, and that's basically all there is to it for right now. I wanted to show you one other thing. Under settings here, that was hidden a minute ago, but this creation code, this is where you can code use GameMaker language to control what happens when the room is first created. So it's like an init function here. Other stuff, I'm not going to put anything right now, but I can do that real quick. So other stuff in the resource tree that we have to build here, we have objects, and we have sounds and sprites. And the other stuff is a little bit out of scope. I'm not going to deal with background and balance or scripts. Might do a script, but all these other things are resources of different types of computer building blocks in Game AGAG. And so we'll talk about objects just briefly. This is our first object will be the thing that we make the player out of. And I preloaded for this game project, I preloaded a bunch of sprites. So sprites are your graphic resources, and they can be animated. They consist of multiple frames of bitmap data. They also consist of metadata that gives you some variable or constant data that you can access in order to draw and move the sprite around. Let me just select the player sprite here. And so we have a player object, and I can put the player into my room. And if we run this, now we have a stub of a player object in the room, and you can't control it the way the program is. So how do we do that? We'll go into the player editor. GameMaker is event-driven, so we have all these objects that you define for your player, your power-up pickup, missiles, enemies, combat, terrain, all these different objects that you have. And each object has different types of events that are associated with that object. And so when an event happens in the game, the object that has a listener for that event will respond by taking action. And so over on the right-hand side of the window here, we have the actions that correspond to whatever event is here. And we also have over on the far right, we have a couple of tabs that have visual representations of actions. These are drag and drop, so you can just grab one and drag it in here. And so this is very simple for somebody who's brand new to programming and who's never done it before. And maybe younger people, they use GameMaker in school a lot for elementary and middle school. So kids who aren't really going to be able to handle syntax yet, use drag and drop, and it's taking the game preview. And it's also good for rapid prototyping if you want to whip out something as a proof of concept and see, is this a fun way to play a game? You can do that too. That's what I like about it. So I'm going to add an event here, and click on the Add Event button. And we need to add the event. Let's do the controls. So in the event add window here, we have a bunch of different types of events that we can have. I'll just go over these briefly. So we have create and destroy. These are what happens when the object is first created and then if the object is destroyed. We have alarms. These are basically timers that you can set up and trigger to go off at a certain time. And the event the alarm event happens. You can have a step event, which is every step in that main loop. The step event fires whenever action happens. collisions are really important in games because you can detect when you're hitting things or when you encounter an obstacle or whatever. So you have collisions with other types of objects. And then you have a couple different ones. I think the keyboard, which detects if the key is down, you press down. The key press, which this is the event for, it triggers just in the first frame of, for the first step in the game, when the key is actually pressed down. And after that, if the key is held down, the key press event doesn't fire each event. But in the keyboard event, it's fired every step that the key is held down. And then the key release, when you release the key, this event is fired. We also have some mouse stuff. Basically, it's not going to do anything with the mouse, but you can have mouse events to detect if you're right touching the mouse button or button. Also, you can detect if the mouse has entered a region or the collision box for your object, whatnot. Let's do a keyboard event for me. We do the left arrow. And we have a number of different options for how we can handle the cache. The way I want to do it is we'll use the variables for the object. We didn't program in the end, but mainly there's a lot of built-in variables that you don't have to program. It makes it easier because there's all this stuff built in. And the position of the object is defined by the variable that I want, which are corresponding to that plus coordinates on the group. So I'm going to say when you press the left, you're going to make variable x reduced by negative 8. So that'll be equal to the left. And likewise, we'll have the keyboard right button.
You're not.
It's how we roll. The value 8 to the current position. If you did do that, set it to absolute 8 or negative 8. Now, if we build this, control, like so. Now, if we go out and enter the screen, we just keep going. So that's kind of a problem, because you can get lost if you're not paying attention to go out the screen and disappear on the way. So we're going to fix that. We can do that in a couple different ways. Part of the previous way would be with like conditional statements. Up here we have all your different conditions that we can try to this one here is the most elementary one. It just has an expression to it and two expressions. And let's say less than 0. And now. Now, if we only do this, this x is not less than 0. So if I reach the left edge of the screen, it should stop. And it does, but you're noticing you kind of go off the edge almost halfway. And the reason for that is the x-y coordinates for this particular sprite are in the center. Right. That doesn't quite work. We can modify that. The x minus right here, 2. Right. Plus So you notice that what I'm, and that doesn't want to do the game check.
The right with the stage.
Oh yeah, you're right. Good call. We have a variable for that, which is a good thing to bring up. Room width. So I don't have to note right now 600 pixels wide. I can just put a room width note. Yeah, there we go. So now we have a moving player, and we want to. So we want to be able to shoot stuff. You have to shoot this basically. So I'm going to create an object for that. And this one, oh, Sanyk, right for that too. And when we create the shot, we want to have an event. And it's set motion. So grab this blue over here, and set the direction to be up, and set the speed to 12. And then what we want to do for the player object now is give it an event so that when we hit the fire button, it will shoot that missile for creative or shoot. So we give it a keyboard, we use space, and then we give it action to create a new instance of our shot. Created at y equals negative sprite height 2, and make it relative to the location of the player object. And now we shoot. That's a lot of shots. That's because every step in the game, every 1/30th of a second, it's detecting that the space key is pressed down, and it's creating a new instance of the shot. So we want to fix that, because in space creative you can't shoot that much. I think in the original space creative you can only shoot one at a time. So what we'll do to fix that is to add a create event for player, and we're going to create a new variable. We'll call it can shoot. And we'll give it a value of false. Now in Game Maker, which is weird, I mentioned earlier, there's only two data types in Game Maker. There's numbers and there's strings. So false is actually a keyword that stands for 0, and true stands for 1. And the way conditionals are evaluated in Game Maker, they perform an evaluation, and if the result of that evaluation is 0.5 or higher, true is the result, and if it's less than 0.5, it's the result. So you can do funny things with your math, and use them as sort of pseudo-boolean if you want to. Some people do. I don't myself, because I like to use, I like code in a way that's more expressive and clear, and using math that is kind of odd, so it's less understandable. But it's perfectly legitimate to do it if that way you want. So now that we have this variable, it's actually want to set true create. We will go back to our spacebar event, and we'll say set expression and shoot. So now, if you can shoot, it'll create that instance of the shot. And then we need to change that. So what we'll do for that is we'll go to the shot object, and in its create event, we're going to reference the players can shoot. So the player shoot. That is an accessor operation, so it allows you to combine the object and its variable. change this to false. So now, if we just ran this right now, I'd be able to shoot one time, and it would change can shoot to false, and then we would never be able to shoot again because nothing was set back to true. So what we want to do with the shot is after it goes off the screen, we don't care about it anymore, and we want to destroy it. So we have an event for that under other events. We have outside room event, and then we use the destroy object. And before we destroy the object, we'll change the variable and shoot back true. Okay, so now if we did this in reverse order, the instance would destroy, and by virtue of it being destroyed, there's perform the next action. So the order of operation here is important. And this should allow us now to create shots one at a time. Actually, let's not do that. Let's create a destroy event, because we have to destroy the shot when it intersects with the end, which we have created this yet. But when we do it this way, it should be better. We use a destroy event, and it looks like can't shoot false here. That way, whether the shot goes off the screen or hits the enemy, when it gets destroyed, this can't shoot variable will be changed back to true. We can run that. And I'm only able to shoot one at a time. So that's working. And this is the way generally I work in Game AGAG. I do little tiny bits of stuff and test it, and then I do a little bit more and test it and fix things as necessary. It's a lot easier to fix things if you only change a little bit because you know where the problem is. If you're looking for it before and you just change something, that's what's broke. Game AGAG does not have really good testing features or debugging features. It has some, and they're very rudimentary. And if I had a week or so to talk about them, I would do that. But for this talk, we'll just, I guess we'll leave that to the people that take that. And we'll get into it and show you guys the more efficient techniques. But this will be good just to get us up and running. So I have these two objects for my player and player shot. And I will create a new object and call this invader. And we give them a sprite for the first type of invader. So the invader, when we create it, he's going to start moving to the right. So we'll set motion to this here, to give them a direction to the right. Two pixels per step. And we know that in Space Invaders, when you hit the edge of the screen, you reverse and you drop down a little. So we'll do that when there's an event called intersect boundary, which just defines the actions that take place when the object encounters the edge of the room. So the room has four boundaries: up, left, right, and bottom. And when you intersect the boundary of the room, this event will fire. So we'll do for this is we'll use another variable, the built-in giving the variable. This is called direction. We'll add 180 to direction. And so directions in Game AGAG are based off of 360-degree circle. 0 degrees is to the right, and 180 would be to the left. And by adding it relative, each time it counters the left or right edge, it's going to add 180 degrees to the current direction. So when it hits the left edge of the room, it'll add 180 to 180, and it'll wrap around at 0 degrees and break up right. And we want to also drop it a row. So we'll say y is sprite height. relative, and that'll drop it down in addition to reversing the direction. Now we have to add the invader to our game. Put it in here. Get started place, and scroll down. And so you move it over to the right. When it hits the edge, you should drop down and go over to the left. It does. Good. Nothing happens because we programmed that yet. So let's go back to those shot player and see if it was done with collision invader. And what we want to do here, when we collide with the invader, we want to go first of all, we want to destroy that invader. So let's go here, destroy other, and we want to destroy the shot too. So, and that would take care of destroying the invader, but you also get points when you shoot one of these guys. So you need to give the invader points. So go back to the invader object, add an event, set up create an event for him. We've already had that. So in addition to moving, we're going to assign a point value, which is point equal to 10. And point is a variable that I make up, it's not a built-in variable. Go back to the shot player. We will see under the score event. We have the score event, we set the score. Prior to destroying the invader, we set the score equal to other points. So in collision, this is a nice thing about collision. We have two variables, self and other. And self is a pointer that references the object that is handling the event. And then other is the other object that is collision. So I don't have to say O invader other, or I have O invader dot point. If you say other dot point, it just knows that that's the object that is collision. It happens to be the collision of the invader object. Yeah, actually. We'll do that. We build this now. She just disappears. So, and then you notice up in the top, in the title bar of the window, it gives you a score. And so I think we need to have an explosion effect to make that a little bit more interesting. I think these are just professional issues. I can add this. Explosion, small explosion, and development location is 0. That's other physical. It's big. So we have a nice explosion now. It would be cool if we had sound effects for that too. And I have preloaded some sounds. So we'll play a sound. I like to play sounds early in the event because I think that if you have a lot of action happening, it's better to have the sound that happens first because there is a slight delay in triggering the action to play the sound and actually hearing it. And it needs to match up with the action on the screen better to play the sound close to the start of the action sequence, if not right then. So we'll have the sound set here. And we don't want it to loop, we just want to play the sound once. So now if we play this. Alright, I was Hopefully that will be used to start. All right, so now we have a working invader. Let's add a couple more to our room. Click in here. And you can see here when I'm clicking, it's actually placing it on this grid. And I don't really mind that because Space Invader kind of plays on the grid. But if you want finer tuning with that, you can turn the grid off or adjust the snap to 0, 0, so you can and that will allow you to have a little bit finer control over where the object is placed in the home. But this works pretty well for Space Invaders because everything's kind of in the rows. And I've got 8 there, and Space Invaders in the arcade 11 in a row. Now if we play this, that's not quite what we wanted. So each individual guy is colliding with the wall and turns backwards. So we wanted all of them, the whole formation should reverse as soon as the lead guy hits the bench. So let me fix that. This is the first thing that's actually a little bit tricky. It's not as straightforward as just drag and drop commands. There is a command in Game AGAG language called with. And with works in the case of if you want to do a action with every instance of the object that you're calling the with on. And so that is what we'll have to do here. So at intersect boundary, we have these two events that happen. And we really want this to happen with all of the code data. So add this execute code action, and this will allow us to actually code the element. So with code later, direction plus equals 80, y plus equals straight height. And we can get rid of the drag and drop action. So let's add another second row. Next here. Uh-oh. So what happened here? Everything was fine until we had the second row. So what's actually happening here is when both of these guys hit the right edge of the wall at the same time, they both have this width block that happens that reverses direction. And so the direction is now being reversed twice. And so reversing twice, it just continues going to the right, and therefore it's still in intersect boundary condition with the right edge of the room. So it continues triggering that and dropping a row each time. So they just go to the right and just drop off. That's not what we want. So how do we fix that? Well, we'll have to go back in here, and we're going to need to create what's called a trigger. So if you go into resources here, there's define triggers. Add a trigger called, we'll name it trigger at edge. And we'll determine condition at edge. Now at edge is just my name of the variable, it's not a built-in trigger. So when you set that, instead of copy this code here, here. Okay. And we'll just set the variable at edge equals true. Okay. So what happens now is both of the rows will intersect at the edge of the room. So both set at edge to true, and the at edge trigger will fire and do the reversal one time. So we don't know what that edge is. So we didn't reference the variable correctly. We need to it's actually the same as a global variable. We don't really need every invader now to have its own at edge variable. We just want a global at edge. Yeah. Oh, I see. We didn't actually create the global variable until the intersect boundary happened. So when the game's trying to run at first, thing isn't at the edge of the room, that variable is undefined and it's causing the trigger to blow up. So let's actually add that to the game's creation code, because that will make sure that it happens before anything else. Now, I just disappeared.
So true. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There we go. Good job. So now we have 2 rows of invaders reversing. We can see up. Everything looks good. And what do we do now? We want to have more invaders. We will create a new invader. Now, we could just code all the same stuff we just did over again, but that's kind of wasteful. When it goes through all that effort, right? So I'm going to make use of the inheritance feature and give the parent invader to the invader object. And that way, all the stuff that we just programmed in the invader will be inherited by the invader 2. And well, one other thing needs to be different. So the point value for invader 2 should be different. Otherwise, the point is a little different. We'll add the create event here. And this is going to override the create event that we set up for invader. So we need to fix that. There is a call event action that calls the parent event. And that way, it just adds on these other actions that we talked about. We'll set points equals 20. So in the parent event for the create, it will set, it'll set the motion and direction, and then it'll set points equals 10, and then in invader 2, it's going to call that, and then it's going to change points to 10 and 20. So we have 2 different point value invaders. And that was so easy, we can do another one. So we'll duplicate this guy, and we'll call it invader 3. And we change his phrase to be point value is true. And we'll go and add this to the game. Create another weekend. Literal. Finally, finish it off with the third one. Alright. And we play that, so I'll work. And notice the scores are going up as they should. Closely up at the top there, we're going up by 20 to 30 when we should hit. So that's all good. What else do we want to do in the game? Let's create the, well, the enemies need to be dangerous, right? So let's make a shot object for the enemy. Call this O. Enemy shot. Let's create it goes down. It goes 8. And well, when it hits the player, it's killed. Add a collision after that. It's simple right now, we just destroy the player, but that's not quite what we want to do. We'll destroy the player, and destroy the shot itself. And we need a way for the enemies to create a shot. We don't want them, this is something that we can just do randomly. We don't want them to be shooting all the time. Probably a good idea in cases to cap the number of shots you get on the screen to a reasonable number. So what we'll do is add a step event. And we want the invaders to shoot randomly, so we'll create a best chance. So this will give us a 1 in however many chance of the event actually happening. We'll say, this, keep in mind, the step event is going to execute every time that the game stops, so that's 30 times a second. We need a really high number, 500, and that will give us 1 in 500 chance 30 times a second of one of the 55 invaders that we put in the game creating shots. So that'll be pretty frequent as it turns out. We'll create a block. We'll create a shot. So it's this location of the invader right in the middle of it at 0, and Y is the spread. And let's put the cap in there too. Add another condition that has to be count. How many shots exist? So we'll check inputs count here. If the number of any shots is smaller than 3, so that's a condition like that. Now you can see they're shooting, and they haven't stopped. Well, they stopped shooting now because they didn't destroy the shot that were on the screen. Let's do that. Actually, we need a ground, don't we? Because when the invaders hit the ground, if you don't shoot them and you reach the ground and end the game. So let's do that for the third. We're going to create a ground object. Ground line shot. Let's take care of that. So then put that in the game. Great. So now we have shots with destroy when it's the ground and keep fighting. That's pretty good. Now, one of the things with Space Invaders, when you start the game, the enemies are moving pretty slowly. And these guys are moving a little bit faster than I like to be. But more to the point, when you destroy enemies, the rest of them speed up more. So we should program that in. Go back to Invader here, do a little trick. We set the speed here equal to, what's the speed we want to make the last animation of? Say 25 pixels per second. And if there was only one in the game, that would be enough. But we want the rest of them is, when there's more, we want them to be slower. We'll divide that by this number. This is a game maker function. And we'll just do instance number on there. So if we had 0, that would be a problem if we were still calculating. We would find a 0 here. Since this would not be calculated if there wasn't invader improvements, we don't have to worry about checking divide by 0. So we're good. Now, if I destroy enough of these, we should speed up. And think about it first, because you're still dividing by a pretty large number. But eventually we'll wear them down to where they start speeding up. Oh no, it won't do that because we haven't programmed it. So we need to do that. Let's create a destroy event for the invader. We have a look. We have all these invaders. We're just going to reset the speed with the same thing as we did in the creative app, which is 25 divided by number. Here. So. In this case, we do need to check to see if there's an invader still left. So let's do that. Let's do testing count invader. Zero. Now they should speed up. They're a little bit faster than they were before. They get dramatically more so. You get about 5 or 6 remaining. It's dividing 25 by 5 and 5 pixels.
The new API.
Okay. That's working. So when I died there, you notice that I didn't respawn. So we need to fix that. I'm going to create a new object. And we're going to call this object player. And so when the object player causes the shot enemy, this sprite is going to change it.
I think this guy is continuous for 2 hours.
Like that. And this perform events flag here will allow us to govern whether we want to invoke to create events when we transform from the player to the player deck, or if we wanted to simply change it and leave it without calling it create event. So I think we do want to call it create event. And in the create event, we're going to set a timer. And we'll say, let's say 1.5 seconds. So we'll do 1.5 times room speed. Room speed is a variable that is equal to the number of steps that the room tries to execute in a second. So that will be 1.5 seconds. After that alarm counts down to 0, we want to change it back to the player. What else do we want to do? Well, we want to decrement lives by 1. We haven't talked about lives yet, but there's a built-in game AGAG variable called lives. So equal to the end of 1. But we also want to have that variable have the value to begin with, because you can't add negative 1 for an undefined value. So go back to your game, and we'll add that creation code. Three lives. It's pretty customary.
Do you really want that variable life to make 1, or do you just want to decrement?
I decremented. I hit the relative flag. Unless I missed it. Okay, so I didn't set the sprite for the dead player, but it just disappeared there for a second and a half, and that's what's going on. So let me fix that. We need to enter the sprite here. If I rerun this right now, what it will do is it'll show like an animation of a messed up looking player. Let's also add a smoke effect to create things. To create that. Instead of an explosion of smoke, just a smoke puff. Set it relative to the player location, we'll make it a medium-sized effect below the topics. Let's make it gray. That'll look a little better. So that's what happens now. And we're not checking to see if the number of lives is equal to 0 yet. So if you die, you just keep dying. And the lives counter keeps going down, but nothing actually happens. It's 0. So we should add a check for that. Control tab, we have this check condition report. The life is greater than 0. We will spend only if life is greater than 0. And if it's less than 0, we want to do something else. So we're not going to code this right now. We'll do that in a little bit at the time. But I just want to put in something as a reminder to build the game over that life is below 0. So I can add this comment. Adding these comments is helpful because when you build up a complex event, it has a lot of action in it. It's hard to tell sometimes what everything's for. So adding these comment things, nothing actually executes here, but it is a way you can use to read it and remind you what you were trying to do there. When you go back to it later after you forgot, then you can add something that can remind you. So now you can see when you get hit by a shot, that's what happens, it just keeps respawning. And now we're in our slides of less than 0, so nothing's happening, you stay a dead player forever. So let's actually draw the line on the screen, so that would be handy. We want to have an object that handles all this stuff for us. Rather than putting it into an object that we already created. So I'm going to create an object called controller. And this is going to be an invisible controller, but I do want to give it a sprite. So when I put it in the game, I want it to be visible in the room editor, but not in the game. So I'm going to find the sprite, turn it invisible, go to the game, and now we can give this actions. Every time it's drawn, we give it the text. So let's first put the font color is white. And we use text here, we'll draw size. Oh, we're setting the font. I don't have any font option in the font here. So we'll just use no font, and that's what the default is in the area. If I wanted to, I can create a font resource, make it whatever font I wanted, add it to the game, and then that set. This is up to draw left line. And then we'll give it the text here. And we'll put it at 10 line. And we don't want this to be relative, we want it to be literally at 10 times. No, I don't think so. It says white.
Oh, wrong side.
I made it invisible, and it's not drawing at all because it's invisible. Well, let me explain what's going on with the draw event. We didn't define the draw event for any of our other objects, and yet they do this right. So what happens is if you add a draw event, it overrides the sprite, the default sprite, and it doesn't draw that at all. So I don't actually need to make it visible. I just have to have a draw event, and then in the draw event, none of my actions are drawing the sprite. So therefore, I'm just drawing stuff, not a super. Okay, got that string. Yeah. So score is a number, obviously, and we want to make it a string. So we have this string function that does that. And now we have our score. And it's up at the top of the window too. And there's GML that I could write that just suppress that, so we only have the one score, but not the bottom of that. Let's continue and add a line of code to flags down at the bottom. So we'll do draw. And we have down the bottom of flags 3, to the sides are flags 2, flags 1, flags 0, and we've got 1 again. Now flags -1, and that works. Now, if you wanted to have the game actually end and do more stuff, we could display the word game over or something like that. We could do that. Let's think about what we want to do in a game that's over here. Oops, let's go ahead. Oh, the no player shot or shot. Yeah. So now, player that. Yeah. Okay. So we have this code here, and we need to figure out what we're going to do on our output. So one thing I like to do is stop all the inputs from moving like stuff. We'll create a block, code block. Say list. So later. 0. That will stop it on the place. And also create a new object. We'll just call it object game over. And it doesn't specify it. No, you don't want to add it. You want to create it when the game is over. So let's create a game over. Now it doesn't matter what the position is if you create a game over object in it, because it's visible. And it draws when you're going. So this position here is irrelevant. Run this. Put it aside. So now we have -1. They all stop moving. The game over on the screen. That's so hard to read because the data is covering it. We want to have somebody reset. So let's create a reset object. Actually, we can handle that in an object that we just create a game over. So it depends on how closely you want to follow the single responsibility principle. It's a good idea if you want to keep your stuff logically separate to only put stuff in there that actually has to do with the thing that it's there for. So for game over, arguably you could say that we want to have separate objects to handle the game reset function, but it's fine. We'll just, when you hit the letter R, actually press R, the letter will be started. Get out. it's game over, and if it's hard, it starts game over. Now, I have a slight bug in that it's not really making the game over at 0, so I have to count, and I change that. That's pretty much basically it. I can do more with this if I want to. Create a, we didn't handle the function when you made it actually touches the function. Add a collision event. Do this on global. Let's create a global variable. Now, we already coded what we want to do when the game is over.
Basically, this thing is just watching the screen, or this video screen, on the screen, recording everything there.
So we can
So
take
I can
this
get the
code
video
and
of
use
me,
it.
and we're going to copy that into a folder along with whatever. Once that I can, at least in the future, this one is that's my chemicals and speed up, and the end result will look like this. But I'm the one that has to run the end result. Okay.
We need to set the variable when the room starts. So we go back to the creation code.
What I'm going to need to know is what do I need to run for the next class starts. Okay, well this will stop, and then we'll copy, we'll move the slide. We'll move the slide here. Then all you have to do, hopefully the next system comes up, you hit start again.
And
the idea is when this should come up.
we need to have another trigger.
Slides or speaker.
Yeah, trigger.
But the idea is to get something out, because we can do that big shot on the fine. Yeah, so the down here is kind of bad.
And then we let our controller we can add the event to this trigger.
You give it a rough idea.
And the game over and then
I should this one.
yeah. Now, regardless of if you use all your lines or the greatest section around,
My job. Yeah,
if you run this, it
that's all.
probably takes a while. Second. See, one of the problems that you have with testing is you have to play a while in order for the situation to rise your testing score. And that can slow your development way down. Like if you're testing the game is over, you have to play a whole game in order for the game to be over, and that will slow you way down. So it's nice if you can trigger these things quickly by kind of taking it. So one thing I could do is temporarily add a button that just triggers the game over. Let me just run these guys in the ground. Add a point back, so now we'll get around. Yeah, we can do it. So that works. Now, if I wanted to test that earlier, I can just add another event to my controller object for the press.
Right now,
Letter
occasionally
O.
copy from different
Set game over to true. That way, and then I can just set the video.
Actually, you're going to be in the next. Yeah.
So that brings up the game over immediately, and I know that my game over code is functioning properly. So that is a good thing, because it's really time consuming to test your games, especially if you have a lot of events like safety events. And using this technique to take your events earlier, so you can test it, get it out of your way, is a good thing. I can continue with this, or I can go on Q&A at this point. There's more stuff I could do. I didn't program anything in to reset the room when the last conveyor is destroyed. I could do that. I could create the mothership. There's something, if you guys notice conveyors, periodically a mothership that the client software applies from the right into the room to the left. I could do that. Or I could just answer questions if you have any. Mark?
Unit testing. You were basically complaining that you don't have unit testing.
Yes.
Is there anything like JUnit for this?
Unfortunately, no.
Why not?
Nobody's built it yet. I guess this is the main reason.
Because a lot of that code is begging for unit testing.
Absolutely, yeah. Unit testing would be a wonderful thing. Game Maker is going through a lot of revision right now, and I don't see it happening in the next version that they're about to release. But they probably will do something eventually, I would think, to help. Unfortunately, the maker of Game Maker is a company called Yo-Yo Games. They don't have a public roadmap for the project, and so I don't know if they really plan to or not. The other thing I'll say is I became aware of this just a week ago, so I don't know a whole lot about it, but there is a open source project called Enigma, which is an effort to re-implement Game Maker and kind of augment it in various ways. And it's supposed to be, its first goal is to be as compatible with the stock Game Maker language and runtime as possible. But it also allows you to do more advanced coding, and probably allow you to do stuff like that when you get around to building it, and it's not complete yet, but it's underway. So Enigma is an interesting project, but it's probably only about 75% compatible with Game Maker at this point, so a lot to go.
Yeah, but you have these predefined variables like when comes to level and so forth. And on a listing or a reference.
Yes, there is.
You could repeat the question.
Yeah, the question was, I was talking about some of the variables in Game Maker are built in, and some of them I was creating myself. And we wanted to know, is there a list of what is out there as far as built-in variables? And I didn't mention it, but I meant to. Help menu is excellent in Game Maker. You can go into this and search stuff, and there's all kinds of information here. So this is the first place to go for that. Search on that and also there's a lot of stuff in here. And there is an article in here that gives you a list of all the variables, which ones are global, which ones belong to an object. There's variables for your sprites, for your objects, for your room, and you can use all of those very handy. So when you're trying to think of how you do stuff with, say you're trying to program for this for the first time, you've never done it before, going to the help and reading up on the language specification and learning about all these things and the way to do it. Game Maker also has really excellent user support forums. They have a good community of Game Maker developers, and they answer questions. So there's a function on Video Games, sorry, a forum on Video Games website where you can go and ask questions, and there's a chat room for, well, not a chat room, but a web forum for beginners and intermediate users, and there's one for advanced users. So if you have more advanced questions, you can ask them there. And I realize there's a lot in the year and a half that we're developing, so I've got a lot of questions answered. Question? Yeah.
Aren't application-specific programming languages kind of language thing? And why did they just admit that they're implementing?
I don't think they're implementing Ruby.
Why not embed Ruby into language? You know, that language is Ruby.
It's an interesting thought. I haven't really considered comparing Game Maker language to Ruby.
Why would you learn another language before doing that?
Game Maker was developed initially in 1999. So it is a knife. Is the flip answer. But at the time that it was initially developed, there really wasn't anything in the way of a stripped down, simplified language that you could do stuff with and teach young children, which is what the original intent was. So again, there's a lot of weird quirks in Game Maker language. It has, like if you call a function, you can create your own functions, so they're called scripts. And the script has a built-in sequence of arguments that you can tap into it. But rather than let you declare what type of data goes into them and name them, it just gives you a generic list of 16 and names the argument 0 to argument 15. And then you can rename those once you're in the script to whatever variable you want. But it's a little bit funny that way. And there's a lot of weird stuff about the Game Maker language. It's not a pretty language, it's not the most elegant language, but it is very simple. And so you have a lot less complexity than you would if you were trying to teach somebody programming for the first time with a language like C#, which has all kinds of underlying concepts that you have to train somebody in terms of object-oriented. There's nothing like a private variable in Game Maker. Yeah, I know, it's weird. But it's a compromise, because if you had to protect your data in objects, have accesses, setters and getters for it, it would be too complicated for a young child to learn, is the thought. And like you kind of learn the value of having them by not having them. This is the way I look at it. So I actually learned a lot of good practices in programming by making a lot of mistakes in my early Game Maker endeavors. And so I would make a big mess out of things, and I'd be like, why can't I figure out what this variable is when this happens? Because I'm trying to trace the code in my head because it doesn't have it built in my browser to trace it. And I like, well, this is too complicated, I just want this better solution. So I kind of was led by the feature's absence to recognize the importance of encapsulation, abstraction, narrative. So it has imperative for that, but you learn when to use it very instinctively when you first get started with Game Maker.
So the language stuff for that feature.
Yeah. Yes.
I was wondering, is or can the output of Game Maker be storm compliant?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is or can be the output of Game Maker be storm compliant?
I'm not familiar with what Swarm is. The question was, can the output of Game Maker be made Swarm compliant? Can you explain what that is?
It's an integrated protocol to interface with other applications.
I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know that Game Maker has output proper, for one. It does have networking functions that I didn't talk about, which I suppose you could set up a second thing to listen to the network output, and if Swarm works in that way, maybe you could. But unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the concept of address that first. Okay, so I will leave you guys with a video, because what I did was very simple, and I want you to have the impression that Game Maker is actually capable of doing cool things. So, I have a video. Various people have made lots and lots of games, and this will show you 100 Game Maker games in 10 minutes. And these are really neat, graphically.
Is it like the screen? Is it up right corner?
So all these effects are possible in Game Maker. It's just that you have to get into it and learn lot of different graphical techniques, and things you can do with sprites and alpha blending, stuff that I don't get into. But it is there, it's capable of doing some really great stuff, and it's a lot of fun to make games, and you can do them quickly. And if you are frustrated with the limitations of Game Maker, you can still use Game Maker as a rapid prototyping platform and create concepts on things very quickly and figure out whether it's worth investing the time to re-implement something a little bit more powerful. Specifically on Game. Alright, well, I will be in the main room for a Game AGAG at 1 o'clock. I'm going to leave this up and running. I'll answer any other questions you guys want to come up with Bob, or if anyone needs to continue doing Q&A for the remainder of the time here. Thanks.
Here's what we want to do. Since we're pretty much done now, I don't know where the audio system came out on this. We want to stop this.